A certain alien female harbored a deep apprehension, convinced humanity would consume her, but circumstances veered toward the unforeseen. Commander Elijah Blackwood found himself in dire need of respite from the ceaseless influx of mission dispatches. After a full 6 months stationed on the remote planet Sylvia, even the most steadfast special operations officer required some period of repose. The unending barrage of data analysis and strategic evaluations threatened to overwhelm his senses. Brushing his fingers through his stylishly disheveled dark brown hair, he adjusted the circular blue illuminated indicators adorning his shoulders, a standard component of his advanced stealth attire. The material, akin to black leather, clung to his athletic physique as he proceeded through the outpost security checkpoints. "Just taking a stroll," he called out as he passed the post of Commander Lieutenant Richards. "Just clearing my head, Lieutenant. Occasionally, one must disengage from the displays before they sear one's retinas." The dense violet-hued forest bordering the perimeter beckoned. Elijah had always been captivated by Sylvia's singular biosphere, the way its indigenous flora appeared to radiate an internal luminescence, cultivating an otherworldly ambiance that evoked memories of Earth's bioluminescent fauna. As he advanced further into the arboreal expanse, his combat conditioning engaged instinctively. Old habits proved remarkably persistent, even during a leisurely perambulation. Every rustle of foliage, every subtle shift in the shadows, commanded his attention. The sharp blue eyes that had previously garnered him top accolades in tactical assessments meticulously scanned his surroundings. It was then that he perceived her. Initially, he suspected a trick of the light, or his own perception. Lying inert amidst the glowing undergrowth was a creature that appeared to be a diminutive humanoid, no taller than 2 feet. Her skin possessed a delicate lavender hue, and her long, straight hair, the same shade, was gathered into a ponytail. She was clad in what could only be described as an extraterrestrial interpretation of a metallic bikini, which seemed to emit its own soft radiance. "Well, I'll be," Elijah murmured, lowering himself for a closer examination. In all his years of interstellar exploration, he had encountered nothing remotely comparable to this. The minuscule being was unequivocally sentient. Her features were too refined, too intelligent in their cast to suggest otherwise. With utmost care, he extended both hands, gently gathering her into his grasp. She felt surprisingly warm against his skin, and he detected a faint, rhythmic pulsation. Whatever passed for a pulse within her species. The instant his hands made contact, her eyelids flickered open, revealing iridescent orbs that seemed to encapsulate entire galaxies. For a fleeting moment, they regarded each other in shared astonishment. Then, she emitted a shriek. "Please, do not consume me!" she squeaked, her voice a melodious confluence of dread and an oddly alluring inflection. "I realize I am small, and likely appear quite palatable, but my taste is truly, profoundly unpleasant." Elijah could not suppress a chuckle, though he quickly regained his composure upon observing her trembling. "Easy now, little one. I have absolutely no intention of consuming you, I promise." She blinked rapidly, her tiny hands clutching his gloved fingers. You aren't? But you are so immense, and all the tales speak of giant aliens devouring smaller life forms. I can assure you that humans do not subsist on sentient beings," Elijah replied, endeavoring to maintain a gentle, reassuring tone. "I am Commander Elijah Blackwood of the Earth Special Operations Division. And you are?" "Lilia," she answered, still exhibiting wariness, yet clearly intrigued by his countenance. "I am a Psyllid. We are indigenous to this world, but we typically remain concealed from the larger species." She paused, then added with what seemed to be a touch of playful impertinence, "Though I must confess, none of our legends mentioned how comely the giant aliens might be." Elijah felt a warmth spread across his ears. Was this diminutive alien actually engaging in flirtation? "Well, Lilia, it is a distinct pleasure to make your acquaintance. Would you mind explaining how you came to be unconscious in the forest?" She shifted in his palms, and he noticed a slight wince. "I was collecting luminescent moss for our village's infirmaries. I must have slipped and struck my head against a crystalline formation." Her eyes widened abruptly. "Oh dear, the moss. I dropped my collection satchel." "Allow me to assist you in locating it," Elijah offered, meticulously surveying the ground. He discerned a tiny, shimmering pouch near the spot where he had discovered her. "Is that it?" "Yes!" she exclaimed, bouncing with excitement in his hands before immediately regaining her composure, appearing slightly abashed. "I mean, yes, that is precisely it. Would you be so kind?" Elijah knelt, his hands remaining steady as he retrieved the minuscule bag with his fingertips. "Here you are. Though perhaps you should rest for a spell before returning to your settlement. That bump on your head could be quite serious." Lilia accepted the bag and then looked up at him with those galaxy-filled eyes. Would you mind sitting with me for a short while? Just until the dizziness subsides? And perhaps you could tell me about your world?" "I would like that very much," Elijah replied, settling himself on a fallen log. He carefully held her at chest level so they could converse more comfortably. "Though I have just as many questions about your people should you be inclined to share." "It's a deal," she agreed, making herself at ease in his palms. "Though I must caution you. I might just keep you engaged in conversation until the moon ascends. I have nowhere else to be." He grinned, finding himself unexpectedly charmed by this unanticipated encounter. What ensued was one of the most engrossing dialogues of Elijah's existence. Lilia recounted the Scyllid civilization, detailing their harmonious existence intertwined with the forest's crystalline structures, their utilization of the crystal's natural resonance for purposes ranging from healing to communication. In turn, he shared narratives of Earth and humanity's odyssey among the stars. As the forest's bioluminescence intensified with the encroaching twilight, Lilia finally spoke. "I should return to my village, but would you be willing to come back tomorrow, to the same location? There is something I wish to ask you, but I must consult with our elders first." "I will be here," Elijah promised, carefully placing her on a crystal outcrop. "And try not to strike your head on any more crystals in the interim." She laughed, a sound like miniature wind chimes. "No promises, Commander. But at least now I know there is a handsome giant who might come to my aid." With a final wave, she vanished into the undergrowth, leaving Elijah to ponder whether the entire experience had been a figment of his imagination. The subsequent day, Elijah found himself scrutinizing his reflection in his datapad's reflective surface more frequently than he cared to admit. He rationalized it as mere procedural adherence. Maintaining a professional appearance was integral to his role as a special operations commander. Yet, deep down, he understood he was grooming himself for Lilia. "Heading out for another walk, sir?" Lieutenant Richards inquired, his knowing smirk suggesting he was unconvinced by Elijah's casual pretext. "Environmental reconnaissance, Lieutenant. Those reports will not compose themselves. The forest seemed transformed that day, its bioluminescent flora pulsing with heightened intensity, as if nature itself was attuned to his anticipation." Elijah made his way to their designated meeting point, his advanced suit's sensors registering unusual crystalline resonance patterns in the vicinity. "You returned," Lilia's melodious voice carried from above. He looked up to find her perched on a crystalline formation, her lavender skin gleaming in the ethereal light. Today, her metallic raiment appeared to shimmer with more intricate designs, capturing and reflecting the forest's glow in mesmerizing fashion. "I gave my word, did I not?" Elijah smiled, extending his hand. She gracefully stepped onto his palm, and he observed that she moved with increased confidence, entirely at ease with their disparity in size. "I must admit," she said, settling herself cross-legged in his hand, "I spent half the night convincing our elders that you were not intending to consume our entire village." Elijah chuckled. "I hope you were persuasive." "Oh, exceedingly," she responded, her galaxy-filled eyes sparkling with mischief. "I recounted how you rescued me, and how your eyes hold more kindness than any being I have ever encountered." She paused, then added softly, "Though I may have omitted the detail regarding how attractive I find you." Elijah felt the familiar warmth creep back into his ears. "Lilia, oh, do not fret," she said, waving her tiny hand dismissively. "Among my people, it is perfectly customary to be forthright about attraction. We believe life is too precious to squander time circumventing our sentiments." She tilted her head, studying his reaction. "Though I am sensing that humans might be different. We tend to be more reserved," Elijah admitted. "Though I would be dissembling if I claimed I did not find you utterly captivating." Just captivating? She batted her eyelashes playfully. Before Elijah could formulate a response that would not contravene approximately a dozen diplomatic statutes, Lilia's expression shifted to one of seriousness. But that is not why I requested your presence today. We require your assistance, Elijah. She stood up in his palm, her diminutive form radiating determination. Our village is facing a threat. Creatures of crystal, whom we call shardclaws, have become increasingly aggressive of late. They previously avoided our settlements, but something has changed. They are assaulting our crystal gardens, destroying our healing chambers, and, she hesitated, 3 days ago, they abducted one of our younglings. Elijah's jaw tightened. I am profoundly sorry, Lilia. That is terrible news. Our warriors are skilled, but we are simply too diminutive to effectively contend with these beings. They are roughly your stature, with crystalline scales and talons capable of cleaving through our most robust materials. She looked up at him, her gaze filled with pleading. Will you aid us? I realize it is a considerable request. Yes, Elijah stated without a moment's hesitation. Of course. I will help. Lilia's eyes widened. Just like that? You do not even wish to ascertain what is to be gained? You require assistance protecting children from monsters, Elijah said simply. That is all the information I require. Lilia gazed at him for a long moment, then performed an unexpected action. She walked up his palm to his wrist and then embraced his thumb. The elders informed me that humans were perilous due to their size and strength, but they never mentioned that your hearts might be equally vast. Elijah carefully curled his finger around her in a gentle reciprocation of the embrace. Tell me everything you know about these shardclaws. If we are to safeguard your people, I need to comprehend what we are confronting. As Lilia proceeded to detail the creature's habits and vulnerabilities, Elijah's strategic mind was already in overdrive, yet he couldn't ignore the subtle intimacy of her small hand resting against his thumb, nor the way she naturally gravitated towards him when emphasizing crucial details. The crystals are the linchpin, she explained. The shardclaws derive their power from them, but an excess of crystal energy can overwhelm them. We've attempted to counter them with our resonance techniques, but our scale prevents us from generating sufficient force. What if we merge your intellect with my might? Elijah proposed. Could you instruct me in channeling the crystal energies? Lilia's face illuminated with an eager smile. Indeed, but it would necessitate extremely close proximity. The energy flows through you, and I would need to direct your movements. She bit her lip, a gesture he was finding increasingly captivating. Would that be acceptable? I believe I can manage, Elijah stated, endeavoring to maintain a steady tone as she clambered onto his shoulder, her miniature digits brushing his neck. First lesson, she whispered near his ear, sending an unexpected shiver through him. He was learning to perceive the crystal's very pulse. Close your eyes and listen. What followed was the most profound training session Elijah had ever undergone. Lilia expertly guided him through the fundamentals of crystal manipulation, her diminutive form pressed against his neck, assisting him in attuning to the raw, energetic force. Her touch was akin to a jolt, sending tremors of both crystal power and something far more personal through his being. By the time dusk settled, Elijah had grasped the basic techniques, though he suspected Lilia's hands-on pedagogy had been more thorough than strictly requisite. Not that he was complaining. You're a natural, she praised, still perched on his shoulder. Most of our kind require weeks to achieve what you've mastered in mere hours. I had an exceptional instructor, he replied, turning his head slightly to regard her. Their faces were mere inches apart, relatively speaking, and for a fleeting moment, the disparity in their physical stature seemed to dissolve in the intensity of their shared gaze. Lilia broke the spell first, clearing her throat. We should commence planning our defense tomorrow. The shardclaws typically strike at twilight. I'll be prepared, Elijah assured her. And Lilia, thank you for entrusting me with this. Thank you for being trustworthy, she responded softly. Then, to his surprise, bestowed a tiny kiss upon his cheek, before leaping with practiced grace to a nearby crystal formation. Same time tomorrow, Elijah vowed, touching the spot where her lips had met his. As he watched her vanish into the crystalline forest, he realized he was venturing into perilous territory, not due to the shardclaws, but because he was succumbing to feelings for someone he could cradle in his palm. Yet, paradoxically, that detail seemed to diminish in significance with each passing moment. The descending twilight brought more than just the looming threat of the shard claws. As Elijah crouched behind a colossal crystal formation, his advanced suit sensors detected multiple crystalline signatures approaching the Scylid village. Beside his neck, Lilia's tiny form tensed. 3 of them, she whispered, her breath tickling his ear. Larger than usual. The creatures emerged from the phosphorescent undergrowth, their crystalline carapaces refracting the forest's luminescence into deadly prismatic patterns. Each beast stood roughly Elijah's height at the shoulder, adorned with jagged crystal protrusions along their spines and claws sharp enough to rend battle armor. "Remember the training," Lilia murmured, her small hands pressing against his neck in a gesture that was both reassuring and a significant distraction. "Feel the crystal pulse. Let it flow through you." Elijah closed his eyes for a brief instant, attuning himself to the energy that seemed to thrum through the very atmosphere. The past few days of training with Lilia had awakened his senses to this new dimension of existence, though he suspected not all of those tingles had originated solely from the crystal energy. "Ready?" he inquired, sensing Lilia shift to a more secure position on his shoulder. "With you, always." Elijah emerged from their concealed vantage point, his hands already executing the intricate patterns Lilia had imparted. The nearest shardclaw whirled towards him, its crystalline maw gaping open in a screech that set the surrounding crystals into sympathetic resonance. "Now! Lilia!" he commanded. He thrust his hands forward, channeling crystal energy as Lilia had demonstrated. Simultaneously, he felt her minuscule form directing her own power through him. The combined effect was explosive. A wave of pure crystal energy erupted from his palms, far exceeding anything they had achieved during practice. The lead shardclaw was flung backward, its crystalline hide crackling with excess energy. "That's new," Elijah managed, staring at his hands in astonishment. "Focus!" Lilia's voice snapped him back to the present as the other 2 shardclaws charged. What ensued was a breathtaking dance of crystal energy and physical combat. Elijah dodged and weaved, his special ops training perfectly complementing Lilia's guidance in crystal manipulation. Together, they were devastating. When he moved left, she anticipated and channeled energy to the right. When he ducked, she sent pulses of power overhead. But it was more than mere combat synchronization. With each successful energy convergence, Elijah felt something shifting between them. The size discrepancy seemed to blur, as if their very essences were meeting in an unspoken middle ground. The final shardclaw fell with a resounding crash, its crystal hide overloaded to the point of shutdown. Elijah stood, his suit's indicators pulsing with residual energy. "That was incredible!" Lilia exclaimed, practically dancing on his shoulder. "I've never felt crystal energy respond like that. When our powers combined, it was like we were the same size." "Exactly," Elijah finished, turning his head to meet her gaze. Their eyes locked, and for a moment the 4 seemed to pulse and synchronize with their heartbeats. Lilia reached out, touching his cheek with her tiny hand. Despite the immense size difference, the contact felt profound. "Elijah," she said softly, "I think we need to visit the ancient crystal chamber." "The what now?" "It's a sacred place deep within the crystal caverns," she explained. "The elders say it holds the secrets of our ancestors' crystal mastery." She bit her lip, a gesture he was becoming quite partial to. "What we just did, it shouldn't be possible. A Scylid's crystal energy can't combine with other species like that unless what?" Instead of answering, she leaped gracefully from his shoulder to a nearby crystal formation. "Follow me. But be warned, no outsider has ever been permitted into the chamber. The elders might have my head for this. We could wait, get permission." "No time," she interrupted. "The shard claws will return, stronger next time. We need answers. Now." She paused, giving him a look that quickened his pulse. "Besides, I'm tired of having to climb you like a crystal formation just to kiss your cheek." Elijah felt his face flush. "Lead the way." The journey to the crystal chamber led them deeper into the forest than Elijah had ever ventured. The bioluminescent flora grew more intense here, and the crystal formations more elaborate. Lilia guided him through concealed passages and secret tunnels, all scaled to her size, forcing him to crawl and squeeze through spaces that challenged even his tactical training. "The chamber's just ahead," Lilia called back, her diminutive form navigating the crystal maze with practiced ease. "But there's something you should know first." Elijah paused his careful maneuvering through a particularly constricting crystal corridor. "What's that?" "The chamber. It responds to emotional resonance as much as crystal energy," she explained. "The stronger the connection between those who enter, the more it reveals." She turned to face him, her galaxy-filled eyes serious. "What I'm trying to say is—" A distant screech cut her off. "More shard claws, and they're close." "Into the chamber now," Lilia urged. They burst into a vast crystalline space that seemed to capture and amplify every photon of bioluminescent light. The chamber was a perfect dome, its walls lined with intricate crystal formations that pulsed with inner light. As soon as they entered, the crystals began to resonate, responding to their combined presence. The energy that had manifested during their battle with the shard claws returned tenfold. "Elijah!" Lilia gasped, her tiny form beginning to glow with crystal energy. "Whatever happens next, know that I—" The chamber exploded with light, and Elijah felt the crystal energy surge through him like never before. But this time, it wasn't just power. It was transformation. When the blinding crystal light faded, Elijah blinked to clear his vision. Where Lilia had been, a minuscule figure barely reaching his knee, now stood a woman nearly his height. Her lavender skin glowed with residual crystal energy, her metallic attire having somehow adapted to her new size. Her galaxy-filled eyes, now level with his chest, widened in wonder. "By the crystal heart," she breathed, her voice the same musical tone but fuller, richer. "It actually worked." Elijah stood transfixed. The transformation hadn't just made her bigger, it had perfectly scaled every detail of her ethereal beauty. Her long lavender hair still cascaded down her back, her delicate features maintained their exotic allure, and her metallic attire still caught the light in mesmerizing ways. "You're stunning," he managed, then immediately felt his ears burn. "I mean, you were stunning before, but—" Lilia laughed, the sound echoing through the crystal chamber with newfound depth. "Always so careful with your words, Commander." She took a step toward him, stumbled slightly, and Elijah instinctively caught her arms to steady her. The contact sent sparks of crystal energy between them, but more than that, it was their first touch as equals, skin to skin, without the vast difference in scale. Lilia's hands gripped his forearms, her touch sending shivers through his tactical suit. "This will take some getting used to," she smiled up at him. Then her expression turned playful. "Though I must say, I prefer this vantage point for admiring your eyes." A distant screech reminded them of their situation. The shard claws were still out there, and they had no idea how long this transformation would last. "We should get back to the village," Elijah said reluctantly, though he didn't release his hold on her arms. "Your people need to know about this, and we need to understand what's happening." "Always the responsible one," Lilia teased, but her expression grew serious. "You're right, of course. But Elijah—" She stepped closer, eliminating the space between them. "Remember when I said I was tired of climbing you like a crystal formation?" Before he could respond, she rose on her tiptoes and pressed her lips to his. The kiss was electric, crystal energy dancing between them where their lips met. Elijah felt the power surge through him, amplifying every sensation. His hands moved to her waist, pulling her closer as she wound her arms around his neck. When they finally parted, both slightly breathless, the crystal chamber was pulsing in sync with their heartbeats. "I've wanted to do that properly since the moment you picked me up in that forest," Lilia confessed, her galaxy eyes sparkling. "Even when you thought I was going to eat you?" Elijah couldn't resist teasing. "And especially then," she shot back with a wicked grin, "though I had different ideas about being devoured." Another screech, closer this time, shattered the moment. "Right," Elijah said reluctantly, stepping back. "Shard claws first, flirting later." They made their way back through the crystal tunnels, though this time Lilia had to duck and squeeze alongside him. She was surprisingly graceful despite her new size, adapting quickly to her transformed body. "The elders spoke of this," she explained as they navigated the passages. "In our most ancient texts, there are stories of sylphids who could alter their size through crystal resonance, but it was always temporary, lasting only as long as the emotional connection that powered it remained strong. So this isn't permanent? Elijah tried to keep the disappointment from his voice. Not yet, Lilia said thoughtfully. But the texts also speak of a way to stabilize the transformation, something about harmonizing crystal frequencies at a quantum level during a moment of perfect emotional resonance. They emerged from the crystal caves to find the forest bathed in twilight. The bioluminescent flora cast everything in an ethereal glow, making Lilia's lavender skin shimmer. Perfect emotional resonance, huh? Elijah mused. Any idea what that means exactly? Lilia's answer was cut short by an earth-shaking roar. 3 shard claws burst from the underbrush, larger and more fearsome than the ones they had faced earlier. Their crystalline hides pulsed with angry red energy. They've adapted to our previous attack, Lilia observed, falling naturally into a fighting stance beside Elijah, ready to test this new form in combat. Always, Elijah grinned, feeling crystal energy building between them. And though I have to admit, I'm going to miss having you perched on my shoulder. Focus on the fight, Commander, Lilia chided, though her eyes danced with amusement. We can discuss alternate perching arrangements later. The battle that followed was unlike anything Elijah had ever experienced. Fighting alongside Lilia at full size, their movements perfectly synchronized, was exhilarating. She moved with fluid grace, her crystal manipulation abilities even more powerful in her transformed state. Together they drove back the shard claws with unprecedented efficiency. But as the fight wore on, Elijah noticed Lilia's form beginning to flicker, the crystal energy maintaining her size starting to fade. The transformation is weakening, she called out, dodging a crystalline claw. We need to end this quickly. Elijah felt their connection pulse through the crystal energy field. Without conscious thought, he reached for her hand. The moment their fingers intertwined, power surged between them. The remaining shard claws recoiled as waves of pure crystal energy erupted from their joined hands. When the light faded, the beasts had fled, their crystalline hides cracking from energy overload. But Lilia was once again her original size, barely reaching Elijah's knee. Well, she said, looking up at him with a mixture of disappointment and determination. At least we know it's possible. Elijah knelt down, offering his hand. She stepped onto his palm with practiced ease, though the gesture felt different now, charged with new meaning after their time as equals. We'll figure it out, he promised. The perfect emotional resonance, the quantum harmonics, all of it? Of course we will, Lilia smiled, walking up his arm to her familiar perch on his shoulder. After all, who would have thought a tiny alien girl who feared being eaten would end up kissing the giant who found her? Speaking of which, Elijah said as they headed toward the village, we should probably tell your elders about this development. Oh, they already know, Lilia said cryptically. Why do you think they left those ancient texts where I could find them? The Silid village was unlike anything Elijah had imagined, nestled within a massive crystal formation. It was a masterpiece of organic architecture, crystal spires housing tiny dwellings connected by bridges of pure light. At their current size difference, Elijah had to remain outside while Lilia went to speak with the Council of Elders. They're ready for us, Lilia announced, emerging from a crystal archway. She climbed deftly onto his offered palm, though I should warn you, they can be rather direct. The council chamber was the only structure sized for beings of Elijah's stature, suggesting this wasn't the first time the Silids had hosted larger visitors. 5 elderly Silids sat upon crystal thrones, their tiny forms emanating wisdom and power. Commander Elijah Blackwood, the central elder spoke, his voice surprisingly resonant for his size. We have watched your interactions with our Lilia with great interest. Elijah felt his face warm, wondering exactly how much they had observed. Lilia, still in his palm, squeezed his thumb reassuringly. Your combat against the Shard Claws was impressive, another elder added, but more intriguing was the transformation you achieved in the ancient chamber. The crystal heart's resonance, a third elder mused. Not seen in 10 generations, though perhaps not surprising given the strength of your connection. The way she said connection made both Elijah and Lilia blush. There is a way to make the transformation permanent, the first elder declared, an ancient ritual called the Trial of Twin Flames. But be warned, It will test not only your combat skills, but the very essence of your bond. What exactly does this trial entail? Elijah asked, unconsciously pulling Lilia closer to his chest protectively. 3 challenges, the second elder explained. First, the trial of trust, where you must navigate the crystal maze while sharing a single consciousness. Second, the trial of harmony, fighting as one against our strongest crystal constructs. And finally, the trial of unity, where you must achieve perfect emotional resonance while maintaining crystal harmony under extreme duress. The risk is considerable, the first elder warned. Failure could permanently sever your ability to connect through crystal energy. Are you willing to take that chance? Elijah looked down at Lilia, who had risen to stand in his palm, her galaxy eyes meeting his with unwavering determination. I'd risk anything to be with you properly, she said softly, then added with a mischievous glint. Besides, I'm not done exploring all the ways I can kiss you at full size. When do we begin? Elijah asked, unable to suppress his smile. Now, the elders replied in unison. The chamber transformed around them, crystal walls shifting to create a vast labyrinth. Lilia's form began to glow with familiar energy. The transformation during the trials will be stable, an elder's voice echoed, but making it permanent requires completing all 3 challenges successfully. The crystal light enveloped Lilia, and moments later she stood beside Elijah at full height. Without hesitation, she took his hand, sending familiar tingles of energy through his body. Ready to share minds, Commander? She teased, though he could hear the nervous excitement in her voice. As ready as I'll ever be to have you in my head, he replied, squeezing her hand. Though I apologize in advance for any stray thoughts about how beautiful you are. Oh, just beautiful. She pressed against his side, her lips brushing his ear. Your thoughts better be more interesting than that, considering what I've been thinking about you. Before Elijah could respond, crystal energy surged between them. Suddenly, he wasn't just holding Lilia's hand. He was feeling her emotions, seeing through her eyes. Her consciousness merged with his, creating a dizzying but exhilarating connection. They moved through the maze as one being, their steps perfectly synchronized. Elijah felt Lilia's natural affinity for crystal energy guiding them, while his tactical training helped analyze their surroundings. Their shared consciousness created an intimate dance of thoughts and feelings, each discovering new depths to the other's personality. Your mind is so ordered, Lilia's thoughts echoed in his head, like a crystal matrix, but warmer, more passionate than you let show. And yours is like starlight, he thought back, bright and playful on the surface, but with depths I could spend lifetimes exploring. They reached the maze's center just as the walls began to shift again, transforming into an arena. Crystal constructs rose from the ground, humanoid figures made of pure crystal energy, each wielding weapons of light. Trial of harmony, the elders' voices announced. Fight as one. The constructs attacked with brutal efficiency, but Elijah and Lilia moved like they'd been fighting together for years. Their shared consciousness allowed them to coordinate perfectly, his physical combat skills blending seamlessly with her crystal manipulation. Lilia spun under his arm, sending waves of energy at approaching constructs, while he defended her flank. They moved in perfect synchronization, each anticipating the other's needs without words. You know, Lilia's thoughts reached him as they dispatched another construct. Watching you fight is quite stimulating. The spike of attraction that accompanied her thought nearly made him falter. Elijah missed a crucial block, but their synchronized reflexes instantly compensated. He was careful with his thoughts as he transmitted them back, though he couldn't resist expressing his admiration for her grace in combat. We're a bit occupied at the moment, her mental response chimed like delicate crystal bells. Just giving you incentive to wrap this up promptly. The final construct shattered, and the arena dissolved into an expansive crystalline chamber. Energy crackled around them as their shared consciousness began to buckle under immense strain. The trial of unity, the elders intoned. Achieve perfect emotional resonance while maintaining your connection under extreme crystal stress. The pressure intensified exponentially. Preserving their mental link became increasingly arduous as the crystalline energy threatened to rend them asunder. Elijah's thoughts, though strained, were resolute. Remember when you first discovered me, he projected, when I believed you were going to consume me. Not precisely the romantic reminiscence I would select for this juncture, he managed to think back, battling to sustain their connection. But observe our progress. Her mental voice gained strength, evolving from apprehension to trust, from curiosity to affection. Every moment has led to this. The word love reverberated through their merged awareness, fortifying their bond. Elijah drew her physically closer as their minds intertwined more profoundly than ever before. I reciprocate your affections, he thought, allowing every suppressed emotion to flow unhindered between them. Every improbable, magnificent facet of you. The crystalline energy that enveloped them shifted from threatening to harmonious, responding to their perfectly aligned emotional states. Light erupted from their joined forms, suffusing the chamber with pure radiance. When the luminescence subsided, they stood facing each other, still of equal stature. The elders reappeared, nodding with approval. The trial of twin flames is concluded, they announced. The transformation is indelible. Lilia embraced Elijah, pressing her lips to his with all the fervor they had shared within their unified consciousness. The crystal chamber pulsed with their collective elation. So, she murmured against his lips, about those intriguing thoughts you were attempting to conceal during the labyrinthine challenge. Later, he promised, holding her tenderly. First, we have some shard claws to confront. Together? Together, she agreed, her galactic eyes gleaming with anticipation. Though I anticipate a thorough exploration of those musings afterward, as my lady commands. Elijah grinned, experiencing a profound sense of completeness for the first time in his existence. News of Elijah and Lilia's successful culmination of the trial of twin flames spread throughout the Scylid village like a crystalline echo. Young couples observed with barely suppressed envy as Lilia, now permanently at human stature, walked hand in hand with Elijah through the crystalline gardens. You're causing quite a stir, Elijah remarked, noticing the way other Scylids whispered and gestured. I'm beginning to feel like a revolutionary, Lilia laughed, her voice still melodious but richer in her transformed state. You are, my dearest. She pressed closer to his side, her lavender skin glowing with contentment. The first human to truly grasp our crystalline magic, and the first outsider to complete the trial of twin flames. Though I must confess, observing all these admiring gazes makes me inclined to remind everyone you are taken. And how would you accomplish that? Elijah teased, already knowing the answer through their shared mental link. Instead of a verbal reply, Lilia drew him behind a crystalline formation, her galaxy eyes sparkling with mischief. Their kiss sent ripples through the nearby crystals, causing several young Scylids to giggle and dart away. The elders wish to confer with us, Lilia said when they finally parted, both slightly breathless. Apparently 3 more couples have petitioned for permission to attempt the trial. 3? Elijah raised an eyebrow. Indeed. 2 with human partners, and 1 with a Centurion trader. Lilia's expression grew contemplative. It's sparking quite the debate within the council. Some view it as a natural progression of our species. Others are concerned about preserving our traditions. They proceeded to the council chamber where the 5 elders awaited with uncharacteristic excitement. Ah, our catalysts for change, the first elder greeted them. We trust you are adjusting well to your transformation. Exceedingly well, Lilia replied, squeezing Elijah's hand through their lingering mental connection. He felt her joy at being able to interact with him as an equal. Excellent, the second elder nodded, because we have a proposition for you both. The chamber's crystals shifted, projecting a holographic display of diverse alien species. Humans, Centurions, Andromedans, and others. For millennia, the third elder explained, we Scylids have existed in isolation, our diminutive stature fostering caution towards larger species. But your success has revealed an alternative path. We propose initiating a cultural exchange program, the first elder continued, with you 2 serving as its inaugural ambassadors. Your narrative, from apprehension of being consumed to discovering profound affection, could serve to bridge the divide between species. Elijah and Lilia exchanged glances, their shared consciousness buzzing with anticipation. Naturally, the fourth elder added with a knowing smile, you will require suitable accommodations. We have taken the liberty of cultivating a crystalline dwelling designed for your combined needs. Lilia's cheeks flushed a deep purple, but her mental voice in Elijah's mind was amused. They certainly aren't subtle, are they? The transformation has already garnered the attention of the Galactic Council, the fifth elder stated. They are fascinated by the implications for interspecies relations. And the Shard Claws? Elijah inquired, instantly alert. Have you noticed their absence since your transformation? It appears they were drawn to unresolved crystalline resonance, the first elder smiled. The very energy generated by species yearning to bridge their differences, but unable to. Now that you have demonstrated its possibility, they have lost interest, Lilia finished, a dawning understanding lighting her features. They were never our adversaries. They were manifestations of our isolation. The revelation ignited excitement throughout the chamber. The implications were staggering not only for Silid-human relations but for all species possessing compatible crystalline resonance. There is one final matter, the second elder said, presenting a crystalline pendant. A wedding gift, so to speak. It will allow you to modulate your size at will, within certain parameters. We surmised it might enhance your ambassadorial duties, making them more convenient and engaging. Lilia accepted the pendant with wide eyes, her mental link with Elijah sparking with possibilities. Now then, the first elder announced, shall we discuss the particulars of your new role, after your bonding ceremony, of course? Bonding ceremony? Elijah blinked. Oh yes, Lilia grinned up at him. You didn't imagine you'd evade Silid matrimonial customs, did you? I hope you're prepared to dance in crystalline light, adorned in traditional ceremonial attire. She showed him an image of the ensemble in question, or rather, the lack thereof. Traditional indeed, he muttered, earning knowing chuckles from the elders. Later that evening, within their new crystalline dwelling, which somehow managed to be both intimate and grand, Elijah held Lilia close as they observed the bioluminescent forest through windows of pure crystal. Do you recall when you believed I was going to consume you? He asked, nuzzling her neck. She hummed, leaning back against him. Though I must admit, being devoured by you has proven quite enjoyable in other respects. Lilia, he laughed, still marveling at the directness of Silid culture regarding such matters. What is it? She turned in his arms, her galaxy eyes twinkling. I am merely expressing my appreciation for how things have transpired. After all, who could have predicted that a minor misunderstanding would lead to the transformation of not only ourselves, but potentially the entire galaxy? Speaking of transformations, Elijah nodded toward the crystal pendant. Care to test its capabilities? Lilia's smile turned roguish. Why? Commander Blackwood? Are you suggesting we experiment with size-altering abilities for personal amusement? Among other things, he grinned, pulling her closer. We are meant to be researching cross-cultural relations after all. For science. Then, it is agreed, she replied solemnly, though her eyes sparkled with mischief. The pendant began to glow as she activated it. Though I should caution you, Silid research is exceptionally thorough. I'm counting on it, Elijah murmured, capturing her lips in a kiss that sent crystal energy dancing through their dwelling. As the forest's bioluminescence dimmed into night, their love continued to transform, not merely themselves, but the very fabric of galactic society. The tale of the diminutive alien girl who feared being devoured only to find love with her presumed predator would become legend, a testament to how fear could transmute into love, and how love could reshape entire worlds.